Hey, what's going on, guys? We're back. We're going to be wrapping up this one project shortly. All we have to do left is the projectiles, and then I'll go ahead and take requests for other features people want to see requested. But if none are received, then we're going to go ahead and start a new project, just so we can, start to get a bit more fluent and start to work on some other aspects of programming other than, you know. This isn't very specific, but still, it's a very specific genre of game. Obviously, we can't expand on this, but I think it's nice to start fresh every once in a while, just so we can explore some interesting concepts that we haven't covered before. So, just to keep things clean, we'll make a new folder and we'll call it Powerups. We're gonna make a new class, and we're gonna call it. We'll make an empty class, and we're going to call it Powerup. Okay? Okay, and let's go ahead and let's make this abstract. Okay? So first thing I want to do is we'll go ahead and make a require component type of rigid body, and then we could do a require component of a box collider or something along those lines. However, I mean, it could be a spherical power up. Either way, it shouldn't really matter that much what type of collider we have on it, but I don't want to put in that restriction, just so if we run across the issue, we can put any type of collider we want, and then we can go ahead and utilize this on collision enter. In fact, instead of collision, I'm going to do on trigger enter. I'm taking in the collider called call. Okay, and then we'll do on trigger. We'll make that a public abstract void on trigger. Before we do that, though, this will be if we've been triggered by the player. So first, let's do a check and make sure if collider dot game object dot tag does not equal player, we're going to return. So if an enemy touches this, don't do anything. If let's say we touch the ground, don't do anything. Otherwise, call the on trigger, which will be implemented by our inheriting class, which we'll go ahead and create later. Next, what we'll do is we're going to destroy ourselves once we've been triggered, and then we want to actually implement the power up effect. So we'll go ahead and at this time we're going to make a new script in here in our player folder, and we're going to call this player Powerups. Actually, I have a better idea. Instead of doing that, we're going to keep it centralized, accessing these scripts because from our Powerup scripts. And the reason is we can make one script to manage all of our power-ups. However, that script is going to have to access things like our motion and our combat and things like that, because we want power-ups for things like, rate of fire or extra speed or extra jump height, things like that, which we're going to need access to these scripts for. So other than just making a script to manage that, we're going to go ahead and just make things simpler and have these power-up scripts reference them. Okay. Also, we're going to go ahead and make a public game object called player, and we'll do on our awake function, which is called on the first frame of the game, we'll do player equals game object dot find game object with tag player, and then we'll do if player equals no. This is just just in case. We'll do a throw new exception. We'll do missing reference exception, and then put in this message here. Or keep it simple, we'll do no player found in game. Okay, so this is a little bit something new. This is just saying when we check for the player, if the player doesn't exist, which this should never be called anyways, because even if the player dies, there's no way he can trigger a power-up anyways. But let's say if the player isn't found, it'll throw a new exception, which just means stop the program pretty much. This is like a fatal error. Throw a new exception and display the message, no player found in game. Okay, so that's pretty much what I wanted to do for the Powerup script. We'll go ahead and implement our first power-up in a second. Okay, we'll make our first one. Let's do an invincibility power-up. So we'll do invincibility power-up. Inherit from Powerup. And let's go ahead and implement the abstract members. Okay, so now we have to override this onTrigger method. So once this has been triggered, we'll go ahead and we'll do a player dot get component iHealth, and we'll do dot set damageable false. Okay, now this, we haven't implemented this yet, but one thing wrong with our logic is once we hit this invincibility power up, we now we're doing the effect, but the effect should wear down after a little while. So one more thing I want to do is in here we'll do a public abstract float. We'll do power up duration with a getter, and then lastly what we'll do is a public abstract void on power up off. Now once we've triggered this here, we're going to want to start a new coroutine, which is a timed. I think we talked about that in the previous tutorial. We're going to want to start a timed method, and we'll call this Powerup Manager. Okay. Now you'll notice I removed that destroy game object, and that's because once we start this coroutine, it relies on this method to keep running it. So if we destroy ourselves, then we will then this method will be destroyed, and we won't be able to stop the power up. So instead, what we'll do is we can do game object dot set active false, and that'll turn the game object off. However, the script should still run, I believe. If not, we'll think of another way around this, and then we'll make an enumerator, and we'll call it Powerup Manager. Okay, we also need to use our system.collections. Okay, and then we'll do a while statement, and what this means is it'll keep running this code until this is false, and it's never going to be false, so it's going to keep running this. And we'll do a yield return null. And we'll do time, not lowercase time, oops, plus equals time dot delta time, and we'll do if time, okay, is greater than or equal to our power up duration, break. Now above this here, we'll go ahead and make our float time and set it to 0. And then after here, we'll do on power up off. So what this means is once the power up has been triggered, start this new routine, and what it will do is default this time to 0. Then every frame, add time to it based on the amount of time passed in between the frame. And then we'll do a check if the time is greater than or equal to our power up duration, break, which means exit this loop, and do on power up off. And if it's else, since we don't have an else statement, it'll just return back to the top here, yield another amount of time, do the check again, yield, and it'll keep running this over and over again until time is greater than our duration. And at which time it'll break away from our while statement, or a while loop, and then call on power up off. Let's go ahead and save this. We'll go ahead and you have to implement this here. And then in here we can just do player.getComponent iHealth set damageable to true. Whoops. So now that's another thing I wanted to talk about. You'll notice that player does not bring up an error, even though we've never defined player in this class. And the reason for that is because when we inherit from iPowerup, we inherit all of its public members. So what that means is public game object player. Even though it's not inside this script here, because we inherit from the script, this class will run all of this code as well, which means it has access to this player, and that's pretty much all we've added, but it has access to that player, which is good because every power-up, instead of reusing this code right here in every single class, we can just use the player as it is. Okay? Next you'll notice another new thing here. This looks like a method, except that it does not have the parentheses, and the reason for that is because it is a property, not a method. If you remember, this is just like using our public float power up duration. That's pretty much what this is. However, there's another way of defining it, a more complex way, and that's using these guys. And there's two modifiers. There's a getter and a setter, and we don't need a setter. I don't need to explain that right now. And what a getter does is whenever anything references this, like this guy right here, it'll use the getter, which is here. So it'll try and run the code inside here to get a float. Now, in order to return that float, we're just going to return, and then let's go ahead and we'll return 30. I don't know. Well, okay, that's a little overpowered. We'll do 10. Now, there's other ways we could have done this. We could have gone ahead and made this public as well. So it would be, we could just assign it in the inspector. However, this is just another way. This is more of a programmer's way. We can just assign it inside the code instead of assigning it in the inspector. Both ways work. I just want to show you guys another way of accomplishing the same thing. Let's go ahead and flesh out this set damageable method here. Where is he? In our iHealth. Oh, no, not iHealth. Oh, I guess I missed it or something. Let's go ahead and make a public void set damageable. And what we'll do is we'll make a public bool damageable, and we'll set it defaulted to true, and then we'll do damageable equals p. Now what we need to do is go ahead and inside of our generic hello script, which is the one we used for our player, and here we're gonna have to go ahead and use that damageable variable. So we'll do an or, and then we'll do not damageable return. So what this means is, once again, we're going back and checking or showing that even though we do not have this damageable bool, because it's public and we're inheriting from iHealth, we have access to it from our generic health script, and that's why we can reference it. And now every time we take damage, it'll check to see if we're already dead or if we can't be damageable. And if either our if our health is less than 1 or if our damageable is false, we're to return, and we don't even process any of this code here. So that's pretty much, we've gone and created a Powerup script, and we've gone and created our invincibility power-up. In the next video or two, we'll go ahead and make power-ups for extra jump height, extra speed, maybe one to give us more life, and then maybe something where we can get a weapon upgrade or something along those lines, and then within the next few videos we should be done. So I'll see you guys next time.